Just another moment. Okay, Commissioner, or I'm sorry, Chair Breton, we can start.
Okay, I call to order the meeting of the regular meeting of the Planning and Transportation Commission of the City of Mission Viejo. It is 6:30, November the 9th. I would ask Commissioner Nauer Hayes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
All right. Repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if everyone could please mute their microphones. I note for the record that all 5 commissioners are present, as well as the Director of Community Services, Elaine Lister, and the Assistant, Larry Longnecker, and we have the City Attorney with us, John Harper. First of all, let us find out if we have any public comments. If the public has any comments to make on matters that are not on the agenda tonight, now is the time for us to hear them. Administrative Assistant Hannes, have we received any comments to be read?
No public comments.
Okay, then we will proceed to the consent calendar, which consists always of the minutes of the prior meeting and the status report. Is there anyone that wants to pull one of those 2 items from the consent calendar? If there is, raise your hand. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move we approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing and hearing none, it passes unanimously. Now we will proceed to the public hearing on the item number 3 on the agenda, which is the amendment, a proposed amendment to our municipal code, chapter 10.01, concerning animal control of Title 10 to allow and regulate residential beekeeping. Now, the benefits of beekeeping are undeniable, but the City Council has referred this matter to us for input, for comments, for analysis, and for a recommendation regarding the implementation of this ordinance and the regulations that would be contained in this ordinance. So we will proceed with staff report. Director Lister.
Planning Manager Larry Longnecker will give us a brief report, and then, as he indicated, we also do have the applicant on the WebEx call.
Okay, thank you, Chair Breton and Commissioners. So this item was initiated by the Council at their March 10th meeting. This was brought to the Council's attention by a citizen. Her name is Maya Capolino, and as Elaine just mentioned, she's on the call and available to answer any questions or make some comments. The draft ordinance that was prepared by the City Attorney's Office and staff is attachment 1 to the report, and that ordinance includes some operating conditions. Some of the conditions include that an adequate supply of water be available for the beehive at all times, that adequate space be maintained within the hive to prevent overcrowding and aggressive behavior. Each colony, any property owner in a single family home that wants to have a beehive has to be registered with the Orange County Agricultural Commissioner, and they have to demonstrate that they're in compliance with all state regulations, and the commissioner is also they also handle the enforcement. So any single family property in our single family zones, we have two of them, RPD 3.5 and RPD 6.5. Any single family zone lot can have a beehive, and the number of beehives they can have is dependent on the size of their lot. So they can have at least one, and then for the larger lots, they can have multiple hives. The ordinance has setback criteria from streets and property lines, and because this item is an ordinance, it has to go to the city council for final approval. So as mentioned by the chairman, any comments that are provided and any action taken tonight will be forwarded to the council as a recommendation. So with that, staff recommends that the commission discuss the item and provide comments for council's consideration. That concludes staff's comments.
Thank you very much, Larry. Are there any commissioners who wish to ask questions of staff at this time before we open it up to open the public hearing and hear from the applicant? Are there any particular questions that need to be asked of staff? For
Chair Breton, I have a couple, please.
Okay, Commissioner Blum.
Thank you. Larry, just while we have our assistant city attorney online before we bring the applicant on, is there in the ordinance, if there's beehives and a caretaker in their neighborhood, and the bees for some reason sting, or a killer bee gets mixed in with this hive, and someone becomes ill or dies, who's responsible for that? Or is that a ridiculous question that'll never happen? Just want to see how that would play out, and I just want to make sure. I mean, I'm all for the beekeeping. I just, it's those weird things that can come up and bite you, so to speak. So are we worried about that?
So our assistant city attorney will respond to that.
As a practical matter, the city has no liability. Although there's not a permit issued for which there's statutory immunity, at least under the ordinance as it's proposed. It's no different, for example, than a dog gets loose and bites a neighbor. The city really has no responsibility. Ultimately, to the extent that there's liability, and I don't know if there would be, it would be the responsibility.
Could we all hear that? I could.
I cannot hear anything. I'm sure it's very important.
We're going to work on John's audio. Give us just a moment.
Okay, how about this? Okay, as I indicated, as a practical matter, there is no liability to the city for allowing beekeeping. It's not much different than allowing dog keeping and a dog escaping and biting a citizen. The liability would be liability of the potential property owner. I can imagine that the liability would probably only hinge on whether or not the beekeeper was failing to follow the rules that the city's adopted. Otherwise, we have generally statutory immunity. And for what it's worth, risk management in the city has reviewed this as well, and that was their independent conclusion as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions of staff by commissioners? Yes, Vice Chair Reich.
Actually, I think Commissioner Narvaez beat me.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, Commissioner Nauerhase, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. I heard Commission of Agriculture would be the sort of the enforcement arm of this. Would city code enforcement be the first level of contact for citizens to reach out to? It seems a little implausible that anyone from the Agricultural Commission would do any type of enforcement or response. Is code enforcement prepared to enforce these municipal codes?
No, go ahead.
I'll make a brief comment that yes, I mean, essentially it's no different than any other provision in the code, that if the rules aren't being followed, then it's a code enforcement issue. So neighbor says, hey, they have too many hives, or they're too close to my house, then code enforcement looks at it and determines whether or not there's code violation.
And if I did briefly do the Orange County Department, the Agricultural Commission today, and I talked to their name, Jana Gibbs, and she indicated that they will go out and do inspections. They don't do code enforcement per se. They're more concerned about disease bees, things like that. Or whether bugs in the hive, that would be primarily what they're inspecting for. But she also that, gosh, I haven't a lot. But on these inspections, she also did say that if she noted anything that could be preventative measures, she certainly did that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Vice Chairman Reach. We can't hear you.
There we go. The first part of my question, Commissioner Nares asked was what I was concerned with was about that, who watches it. The other question I would have, though, seeing that the Ag Commissioner is the person that is registering these hives, does the city, I guess the question would be, will the city have, or will the Agricultural Commissioner share a list of active beehives with us in the city, so that the city is aware as well of what, we're talking about what we know is registered. I guess that would be, how do we know it's a registered hive?
I would imagine that would be public information, and I don't see why they wouldn't want to share that information.
Okay. That's all I have.
Does anyone else have a question? Any other commissioner? Okay, I have a couple of questions. One of the requirements is that they notify the neighbors, notify the homeowners within a certain linear footage. How do we know that they have complied with that if they simply go to the county and register? How do we know that they can prove that they notified people within a certain distance, that they provided proper notice? The county is not going to check that when they register, will it? Or will the county look at our ordinance and ask them for proof that they notified the homeowners?
I mean, I would say, I want to jump in, but I would say, it would be ordinance, these would be the regulations. There would be a certain onus on them to comply with it. Otherwise, if a complaint or someone else looked, then it would come to our attention.
Okay, Director Lister, you're cutting in and out. You're all the time. It's cutting in and out, your microphone.
Okay, I will try again. I would say it, would be written, if we were to move forward with something like this, it would be in our regulations, and there would be an onus on the beekeeper to comply with that, to let their neighbors know. And if they didn't, and if there was a problem, then I'm sure it would come to our attention.
Okay, another question I had is with regard to species. There's no regulation of particular species of bees in this, and council wanted to look at that matter. Is that not normally regulated in the ordinances that we've looked at? Which is the model ordinance that staff looked at in order to come up with these provisions?
You know, it was Lindsay Swicker, and I have not had a chance to, I don't recall which, whether it was several ordinances she looked at or just one, but we can certainly find that out. But I would also note that today when I talked to the Orange County Agricultural Commission, they also referred me to the Orange County Beekeepers Association. And I the problem comes with bees. I mean, I think today the lady at the county told me that they get very, very few complaints. They would have received complaints in the past, you know, well over a decade ago. But now any complaints they get tend to be more of a concern about bees. For example, if there's been any vandalism, something like that. So it seems to be concern on the welfare of the bees. And really, I think the practice of farming, which can arise under some circumstances, but really, I think the applicant is a wealth more information on the
Sure.
than I can.
And the last question I have is with regard to
Chairman Bertrand.
Yes.
Before we leave that question, after our discussion.
Yes. You just cut out. We can't hear you now. No.
Oh, you're gonna have to unmute yourself.
I wasn't muted, but okay.
There you go.
This computer likes to make changes on its own. If I'm not a bee expert, obviously, but looking at the ordinance itself, it defines bee as any stage of the common domestic honeybee, Apis mellifera species. And so it would appear that our ordinance would limit any beekeeping to that particular species.
All right. And my last question is regarding commercial use of the honey that's produced. And the ordinance doesn't make a distinction between homeowners who want to produce the honey for their own consumption and those that want to engage in the sale. Is there any ordinance that anybody knows of on staff where they either prohibit sale or they say that if you're going to sell it, that you have to obtain a special license from the Food and Drug people or from the Food and Agricultural from the state in order to ensure that it's sanitary, it's quality, truth in advertising, everything? Are we concerned at all about production of honey for sale? Anybody want to jump in on that, Larry?
Well, I can just tell you that the ordinances that I reviewed did not make that distinction. And there's probably, before you can sell a product commercially, I'm sure there are health standards through other regulations that have to be met. Whereas this one is just the keeping of the beehives, not so much how, to ensure that that final product is suitable for sale.
Okay. All right, then I open the public hearing at this time. We have received several emails which are going to be read to us. And after that, then we will allow anybody who wants to telephone the commission at the following number, 949-470-8464. You will be placed in a queue and you will be allowed to speak up to 3 minutes, either in favor or in opposition to this proposal. However, before we hear read the emails, let us all hear from the applicant, Ms. Maya Capellino. Ms. Capellino, you have up to 15 minutes to make a presentation. Go ahead.
Okay. So Hello, my name is Maya Capolino, and I'm a high school junior, and I've been a Girl Scout since first grade. And I first became concerned about the decreasing bee population several years ago after a farmer showed the impacts of the sort of crisis during a fall hayride, actually. So since then, I've made bee conservation kind of the focus of my Girl Scout Gold Award. And part of that effort has been to advocate for the legalization of residential beekeeping. So I first approached members of the city council in July of 2019, and I'm super grateful to be here today. And I would like to extend a big thank you to Director Lister for working with me the past few months and helping get to the point we are here today. And me and Mrs. Savage, who is my project advisor and the president of the Orange County Beekeepers Association, are here today on the call to answer any questions you have and to just provide, we're here in support of the ordinance. So thank you.
All right, thank you, and congratulations on that very significant achievement, the Girl Scout Gold Award. That is really praiseworthy and impressive. Are there any questions of Ms. Capellino? Okay, then
Bob, I do have a question for Ms. Capolino. What motivated her? What got her fired up on this subject of the bees, which I totally respect?
So I have wanted to do my Girl Scout Gold Award project ever since I first heard about it when I was little. And for my project, I really wanted to pursue something that I was passionate about and that I felt like would really make a difference in the community. And so, kind of like I said before, several years ago, I was actually doing a fall hayride kind of little holiday event, and a farmer was kind of sharing the impacts of how like the bee population was decreasing and how important bees are for agriculture. And so that kind of planted the idea in my head to kind of focus on bees and how important they are for the environment and how their numbers decreasing is becoming a serious problem. So I looked into local organizations, and that's how I found the Orange County Beekeepers Organization. And I reached out to Mrs. Savage, and that's kind of how I started to learn about what I could do to help the bees, basically.
thank you very much. And any other questions of Ms. Capellino? Okay, then we'll move on to hear from the Queen Bee, the president of the Orange County Beekeeping Association, Liz Savage.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate your efforts that you've put into trying to put in this beekeeping ordinance. My name is Liz Savage. I am the president of the Orange County Beekeeping Association. I'm going to be starting my third year as president. I've had bees for about 5 years. I am in no way or means the expert, I do know a lot about the bees. We help educate. We help get everybody involved with bees or beekeeping and the environment. Maya came to us, I believe it was the end of last year, with her project of what she wanted to do. And for a youngster to do that, and her due diligence and her just going after it, she's done a tremendous job. I really, want to compliment Maya on that. I did want to go through, you guys have all the paperwork, and they're going to go over the emails and everything, and Maya has given you a lot of information on bees itself. We are an education nonprofit for beekeeping. Some of the questions that came up earlier was about the sale of honey, the collection of honey that the backyard beekeepers have. In order to sell it to the public or outright, you do have to get a cottage license from the County of Orange Health Department. So that is a licensing procedure that you do have to go through. Jana Gibbs at the Orange County Ag Department, her and I work closely with any bee complaints that come in. And most of them are from bees that are in water meters or on public property. I don't think I've gotten any so far this year that have actually been an issue with a private property bee problem. Let's see. I think, Mr. Brunton, you had a question about the different types of bees. It is the Alphus malaria bee, the species, but there are different breeds within that species. We have the Italian, the Cornelian, the Russian. Those are all different types of they're domestic honeybees, and they're raised in different areas because of the environment that they're in. But it is just the honeybee. That's all we deal with. That's all we work with. And if you guys had any questions, please let me know. I don't want to blabber on. It's going to be a long night for you, and anything specifics you can ask. We have several experts on the line, I'm sure, or they send in their emails. So does anybody have any questions?
Okay, let me ask. Commissioners, any questions? Okay, now, Ms. Savage, I have a couple of questions. Tell me.
Chairman Breton, Commissioner Reish had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't notice. Vice Chair Reish, go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Savage, couple of questions. Is there a uniform type of a container that the bees exist in your experience? So if I were to go into your yard, I would identify that as a bee container?
There are a few different types that people use throughout the country. It's basically personal preference, and I know I can tell by your sound. What we're concerned about is that all the internal parts and pieces are removable, and you're not just having a beehive in a trunk of a tree. We want to be able to go in and inspect them, make sure your queen is there, that your hive is healthy, does not have any diseases. And there are different types of equipment for that. But yeah, there are, most people use the wooden ones with the frames inside. But yeah, there are different types.
Okay. And one other question, in your experience, is there a way to tell, and we'll call it when a hive splits or swarms, when I guess another queen is there and we hear that they leave, do you know ahead of time when that's happening so that can be dealt with, or does that swarm, when it's ready to go, just go off into the air and move to wherever it finds a new home?
Most people know if they're monitoring their beehives in their yard, they can tell when the colony is growing and when it's time to split. So to have like maybe 1 or 2 hives, I would say the max hives in the properties would probably be 3 for 10 acres. You do need that extra hive so that if your colony does have a huge burst in population, you want to be able to split that somewhere else. And if you're only allowed, the 2 hives, then you have no place to split that third one and develop it and either, get rid of it later, sell it to somebody. But you have to have the space to do that. Also, with having at least the three colonies, if one dies, or say they abscond for some reason, say the bees leave because they were invaded by ants or critter problems, and the bees just completely leave that hive, you're going to want to pull resources from another colony so that you can build them back up. There's a lot of manipulation that goes on between colonies when you're a beekeeper. If you have a queen that's bad and she's not laying eggs, you want to be able to move larvae from another hive to that existing hive and get yourself a new queen. So there's a lot of manipulation with bees. But as a beekeeper, when you're checking your bees either every other week or weekly, some check them weekly, most check every other week, every third week, you'll be able to tell, especially in the springtime when they start growing and expanding. So you keep an eye on that.
So properly managed hive,
Yes.
well, that would be something that the keeper would be aware of.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a hotline that the new beekeeper can call in order to and get questions answered about requeening or swarming or killer bees or murder wasps or anything?
Not necessarily a phone number, but mine has been given out. My email is on all of our newsletters, and our board's emails are on our website as well. So if there's somebody in particular, they can call. And we pretty much get back within 24 hours. I can't hear. Mr. Brenton, you're muted.
Okay, Commissioner Leckness, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. This is for Miss Capolino, the junior in high school. She's still with us.
Yes.
I've always wondered, what's the difference between a worker bee? We know the queen. What's the difference between a worker bee and a drone, Miss Capolino?
So the worker bees are female and the drones are male. And so the drones pretty much just exist solely for mating purposes. And the worker bees are the ones that are actually able to sting, and they are the ones that go out and collect the pollen and basically do the work around the hive.
Wow. No further questions for Miss Capolino. Very good.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners? I would like to ask President Savage. First of all, I heard or read somewhere that there is a species of bees that are non-stinging bees. Is that true? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Is that true, or should I ask somebody else that's going to be online? Is there a non-stinging species?
Well, the drones in the honeybees are non-stinging. I believe the mason, but I'm not sure on that because I don't work with mason bees.
Okay.
There are probably other people on who have taken a master beekeeping class, and they are more familiar with all the other species. You're muted.
Chair Berton, you're muted.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chair Berton. I have to mute you when someone else is speaking.
Okay. I have heard also that it is rather difficult at times to start the hive. That maybe you need an assistance from a licensed beekeeper or from an educator or someone that can help you get the hive started. Do you assist in that, or are there manuals? How does one do that?
Well, once every year in the early spring, we pre-sell bee packages. Now, these bees are bred up in Northern California, and they're commercial queens, so they're bred for their genetics. They do not have the Africanized genes or genetics in them. We bring them down here to Southern California, especially for our new beekeepers to work with, because they are very gentle, because they are easy to work with, and it's the best way for them to learn. And they cost about, last year our packages were $150. So if you screw up, it's a $150 loss. But we want them to learn on bees that are genetically docile and easy to work with, so they know what to expect. We don't want beekeepers going out there, new beekeepers going out there and trying to catch feral colonies or swarms that somebody's called in. We have a resource list for that we use. We don't want them getting in over their heads, and because that's dangerous for everybody, and that's not good.
Thank you very much. Now, just for everyone's information, including those that have called in or that are watching, as commissioners, we have all read the staff report, including all the comments that were made by the public at the March 10 council meeting. We've read those comments. So if you are waiting to make a comment that is very similar to one that you've made before the council. Believe me, we've already read it. Now, Administrative Assistant Angela Hannes, I need to ask you if the city has received emails regarding this agenda item.
Yes, we have received emails.
Okay, then let's all mute our microphones and have you read them to us with the assistance, I assume, of Assistant City Attorney Harper. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. The first one is from KJ Bannock, B-A-N-U-K. Dear Mission Viejo, please support beekeeping in Mission Viejo. In most cases, it is already going on. We're just making it safer for bees. For me, my 8-year-old son found a beehive already on our property. However, they're living in a telecom unit. If the company finds this out, they will exterminate the bees. My son has purchased and painted a flow beehive to safely transfer the bees and capture their honey. It will be a great science gift for him. Again, the bees are already here. We just want to give them a proper home.
All right, this next letter is from Corrine Pullikin. Dear Planning and Transportation Commission, I'm writing to let you know that beekeeping should be allowed in Mission Viejo because honeybees are an essential part of our environment and especially important to our agriculture. This little insect plays a huge role in pollinating our fruits and vegetables, especially here in California. As a beekeeping instructor for the past 15 years, I teach new beekeepers to be good stewards of the environment and to care for their honeybees. Many cities around the U.S. have allowed beekeeping in their cities in the last 20 years. This has opened the eyes of a lot of people, realizing that keeping honeybees responsibly and following cities' guidelines has had a positive effect around them. From paying attention to their own garden, city parks, and seeing how honeybees and dwellings can cohabit safely. I am happy that beekeeping in Mission Viejo will be discussed and hope that by being proactive and responsible, honeybees can be kept in any citizen's backyard safely soon. Sincerely, Corrine Pullikin.
Okay, the next is from Connie Major, M-A-J-O-R. Dear Planning Commissioners, I live in Santa Ana near Santa Ana College, and I'm a beekeeper. My husband and I first set up a beehive because bees stopped coming to pollinate my 3 citrus trees. The world bee count was dropping. Now I have 2 hives and have experienced benefits of having more than 1 hive. It helps to be able to compare the health of the hives, to share the frames of brood, unborn babies, if a hive becomes weak, and to be able to collect more honey. The world needs more bees, and the bees need help. Without a doubt, having hives in the city helps with the pollination and the environment. In 4 years, I've not had a single complaint other than a neighbor worried about possible fire when she smelled the smoke used to calm the bees before opening a hive for inspection. We've been stung during hive inspections when taking shortcuts. I have 2 hives in the backyard of my 50 by 100 property. I am in my 30 by 40 vegetable garden daily without any bee trouble. Yes, one will come and check me out, and I hold still, so I'm not that interesting. No neighbors, visitors, pets, or myself have been stung away from the hive. My husband and I took Beekeeping 101 at Cal Poly, joined the Orange County Beekeepers Association, read beekeeper books, watched online videos, and assisted other beekeepers to do a hive inspection in their backyards, all before purchasing a colony of bees and setting up hives in our yard. Now with some experience, last spring we recused 2 colonies of bees, one out of the street tree trunk and another out of an old piñata stuck in a backyard tree. We then helped one of beekeepers get set up. By the way, my husband and I are 71 and 73 years old. I encourage the commissioners to move forward in allowing beekeeping in your city. Respectfully, Keeping Bees, Connie Major.
Okay, this letter's from Michael Henderson. In this area of Southern California, we have hybrid bees in the wild. These hybrid bees have been very successful in this area because they are able to successfully deal with many of the pests and diseases that can kill a hive of European bees. The negative was that these bees exhibited more defensive behavior when first detected in this area in 1994. What we have seen recently is that these wild bees are becoming more docile. There's a number of reasons for this, but a big one is that the action of beekeepers. Beekeepers who keep wild bees encourage docile hives and exterminate those which are too defensive. And exterminating hives that are too defensive is important because hives send out drones who mate with new queens from other hives. If the drone comes from a docile hive, that queen will likely produce docile bees when she returns to her hive. Extremely defensive hives can be dangerous to humans and animals and need to be exterminated, one, before they attack a person or animal, and two, before they spread their genes to other hives. We need beekeepers who can make these kind of determinations throughout Southern California, not just in isolated cities. Drones fly a long distance to mate, so if Mission Viejo has a lot of defensive wild bees, those genetics can cause problems for beekeepers outside of Mission Viejo. Please vote to encourage responsible beekeeping in Mission Viejo. Thank you.
The next is from Pamela Fraser, Fraser, to Mission Viejo Planning and Transportation Commission. I'm writing in support of those Mission Viejo residents who would like to have backyard beehives. Honeybees are wonderful pollinators. Having them improves the yield and quality of locally grown fruits, vegetables, and flowers. By their very nature, honeybees are gentle, industrious, and easy to work with. And the honeybee is the only insect that produces food eaten by man, honey. Please recommend to the Mission Viejo City Council that they permit backyard beehives. Respectfully, Pamela Fraser. RN.
Okay, this letter's from Luis Carcoutley. Mission Viejo Planning and Transportation Commission. It was in October of 2019 that I had my first experience with beekeeping after I attended a workshop on exploring beekeeping given by the Orange County Masters Gardeners Bee Team. I was given the opportunity to help out in the apiary in Irvine and see firsthand what beekeeping entails besides just harvesting honey. I was introduced to a fascinating trade that kept me coming back every week, excited to see what new developments had taken place with each hive, and eager to learn from the beekeepers and the ever-growing collection of books I had accumulated. I was particularly struck by Howland Blackiston's observation in Beekeeping for Dummies of how much his own garden dramatically transformed with the addition of a single hive at his house. He describes not just an increase in the number of fruits and vegetables, which he expected, but he noticed they were larger than in the past and that his flowers were also larger and more vibrant. When I read that passage, I could imagine a similar transformation of my own garden in Mission Viejo, but I quickly dismissed this image since I knew that with the current restrictions, this could not become a reality. Mission Viejo has been my family's home for over 2 decades, and it is truly a beautiful place to live. I can only imagine how allowing regulated beekeeping would enhance its beauty. By taking this next step, Mission Viejo would join the other forward-thinking communities in the county and, more importantly, play a crucial role in preserving these pollinators. Thank you.
The next is from Janine Studer, Studer, to whom it may concern. For the past 4 years, I've been a residential beekeeper and I live in Huntington Beach. I'm showing my support that the City of Mission Viejo approves and accepts residential beekeeping in their ordinance. Beekeeping is hard work. It amazes me how difficult it is to keep a hive alive. The beekeeper spends a lot of time and money tending to their hives because we are responsible for their well-being. And I was deathly afraid of bees until I became a beekeeper. Unfortunately, chemicals usually kill a hive. Beehives are important for pollination and our food. Especially with COVID-19, more and more people are gardening and they need the bees to pollinate. Our neighbors' flowers, landscape, and garden always do better when we have a thriving hive. Also, honey from our city will help people with allergies in your city limits. Please help us save the honeybee. Thank you for your time, Janine Studer.
This letter from Peter Sissons.
Hold it just a second. Mr. Harper, could you read that last sentence? It says it will help people with allergies?
Yes, that's what it says. Yeah, I'll read it again. Also, honey from your city will help people with allergies in your city limits.
Okay, from Peter Sissons. Dear Chairperson and Commission, I'm a proud member of the community of Mission Viejo for the last 12 years and value maintaining the environment in such a beautiful city. I strongly believe allowing bees to be kept in a structured manner would be a great asset to the future of Mission Viejo by maintaining the ecological balance of the many city gardens and wild spaces. Bees are central to the successful pollination of many plants, and with the number of diseases impacting bees, we need to help them by allowing their management. I strongly endorse that the ordinance to allow bees to be responsibly kept in our city. Thank you.
The next is from T. McAleer, McAleer. Dear Commissioners, I understand you will be meeting Monday, November 9th, 2020, and the topic to be covered at this meeting is residential beekeeping in Mission Viejo. As you've already heard numerous times in the media, honeybees have been really hit hard with many problematic issues resulting in major colony loss. Varroa mites, viruses, pesticides, and other colony pests have taken a toll on our honeybees. Being a beekeeper is an expensive consideration, not for the faint of heart due to the equipment cost, the work involved, along with the regular necessary hive testing and treatments to help the colonies survive, as well as feeding during times of dearth due to absolutely no floral access to sustain them. Honeybees are not only indispensable to our commercial crop producers, but also vital to me individually, not only for the pure, delicious honey they produce as a local gardener, but also for the pollination service they provide for my fruit trees and vegetable garden. Considering so many of us now have planted sustainable backyard gardens and fruit trees, honeybee pollination is a critical element to optimal fruit and vegetable production. I advocate approval of residential beekeeping due to the regional pollination benefit and circle of responsible beekeeping education we promote here in Orange County. As a California master beekeeper, we offer local beekeeping classes, follow the California State Beekeepers Association guidelines. As a member of the Orange County Beekeepers Association, a member networking in most all Southern California beekeeping clubs, we all advocate, educate, and promote managed beekeeping colonies with non-defensive commercial colonies and queens purchased from known Northern California breeders. We also promote and educate our members about best beekeeping practices from UC Davis at state level down to individual municipalities, as well as local commercial beekeepers here in Southern California. Please reference the following links, which are not possible to read, but the links are University of California, Davis, the City of Fullerton, and Beekeepers Association of Southern California best practices. I've read the text of the proposed Mission Viejo changes, and I would recommend you modify the proposed ordinance to allow for more colonies. At a minimum, a secondary or third colony would be warranted in the event of a colony decreasing in size, would require brood from another colony to sustain it. Additionally, a colony may need to be split. When the beekeeper recognizes the colony has increased in size and is overcrowded. No beekeeper ever wants half of their productive colony leaving due to a swarm, which would require establishing another hive box for it. As I stated earlier, managing, sustaining, and feeding honeybee colonies is an expensive undertaking. Beekeepers recognize the limitations of time, their pocketbook, and the health of their colonies. Honeybees are predominantly unobserved, magnificent insects working tirelessly and relentlessly, asking absolutely nothing of us, yet respectfully giving us absolutely so much in return while working in the periphery of our
That's
lives.
time, John.
Okay. I'll just completely unrecognized by many. Thank you for your time, Trish Villier.
Okay, this next letter is from Robert Brady. Hi, the Orange County Beekeepers Association, OCBA newsletter recently indicated the happy news that Mission Viejo is considering the issue of beekeeping. I'm a member of OCBA, and I have two large Layens hives, which I keep within the city limits of Yorba Linda, where I live. One in my backyard and one in my niece's backyard. I'm just about to harvest honey right now, and my friends and neighbors are looking forward to it as the bees settle down for the cool months. I love my bees. Bees are such happy and inspiring creatures. Yorba Linda allows bees under statute, and I don't think we've ever had any issues at all. Orange County has a full-time beekeeping supervisor, a young man who conducts inspections of each hive to determine whether the bees are being properly managed. Also, hives in Orange County must be registered with the county and a small fee paid so they can maintain a map. If the hive is moved by the beekeeper to another location, the beekeeper must notify the county to show the new location. If the hive is removed from the county must also be notified. So permitting bees in Mission Viejo would not add a burden of cost or monitoring to the city. Here's another thing. I work in Irvine, and my office landscape contains large amounts of Little John bottlebrush, that beautiful bright red plant we all know and which bees love. Yet there are no bees on it, so it goes unpollinated. It can't thrive and must be replaced from time to time. That is because no one in Irvine is allowed to keep bees, and the tree cutters in Irvine are good at cutting down the dead trees that nature would otherwise provide. I assume Mission Viejo has similar attention to dead trees. How much better would it be if instead of the cost of replacing plants, there was a hive of happy bees making honey from the Little John and thereby keeping it healthy and thriving as well? One more thing. Bees are struggling to survive as a species and yet are critical to America's food supply and to the world's food supply. Bees are losing habitat and their genetics are suffering much like purebred dog genetics are suffering. We must be willing to do what we can to preserve them, to diversify their DNA with more hives and bring them back. 40% of all beehives in America died as of the last measurement dated in April 2019. It's nice that lately people have been interested in saving the bees, and rightly so. Again, Orange County is already set up to do this right, with registration, avoidance of spraying for mosquitoes around the hives, a full-time beekeeping inspector doing on-site inspections. The only dangerous hives with over-defensive bees are natural hives and hives that are mismanaged. If a managed hive seems to be getting more defensive, the beekeeper isn't having any fun either. So they kill the queen and replace her with one that's more peaceful. And in 3 months, the entire hive is populated with the new queen's offspring. Mission Viejo should take advantage of the existing Orange County infrastructure already and the strong local beekeeping organization. Uh, and that I feel strongly about this and look forward to what you decide. Thank you.
The next is from Sean Crowley, to whom it may concern. My name is Sean Crowley. I'm a commercial beekeeper, honey producer, pollinator, queen breeder, educator, writer, and researcher. I started 15 years ago as a hobbyist beekeeper, and my passion grew from there. I've devoured written information and hung out with commercial beekeepers and scientists over the years to gain my knowledge. I've taught hundreds of students beekeeping from beginners to more advanced levels at multiple clubs, at seminars, and at Cal Poly Pomona University. I was asked by the California State Beekeepers Association to head up the development of a master beekeeping program in the Southern California area. I run a pollination group that takes the bees up to pollinate almonds every year. This coming year, I'm going to be working with Boris and Barbara Baer, researchers at the University of California, Riverside, artificially inseminating queens to produce a better queen stock. All of this would never have been possible without starting out as a hobbyist beekeeper. As I look around at my fellow commercial beekeepers, I see an aging population. We need new, enthusiastic young people to join the industry. The bee population is dying as forage disappears, as larger and larger farms take out natural forage, pesticides, droughts, fires, and other climate change events, and pests on the bees spreading disease. Keeping bees alive is becoming harder and harder. 1/3 of the produce you eat comes directly as a result of bee pollination. In addition, items like beef and milk products come from alfalfa, which is a byproduct of bee pollination. Bees are necessary for us to eat well. By having hobbyist beekeepers, we can start training the next generation of beekeeper to join the industry as I have. I've written a best management practice document which describes how one can keep bees and not have an impact on the neighbors. It not only tells you how you should set up an apiary, a location where you keep bees, but also where you should do things in a certain way. Multiple bee clubs in the Cal Poly Pomona University have posted it on their websites as the proper way to keep bees. An example can be seen on the Southern California Beekeepers Association website, www.beekeepersassociationofsouthern.org/best practices. I've submitted this document to the city of Fullerton and worked hand in hand with them to develop their BMP when they legalizing beekeeping in their city. I also gave this to the city of Santa Ana when they were in the legalization process.
Could we summarize?
Pardon me?
could we summarize? Can you get to the bottom line? Because it's more than 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 2 sentences left.
Okay.
I believe you'll find it quite informative, and it will answer many questions and misconceptions you may have. I love to teach people these wonderful creatures, whether they want to keep them themselves or just to find them fascinating. If you have questions and like to discuss any aspect of what I've written, I'd be happy to talk with you. Feel free to email or call me at 714-225-2434. And he is attached to Beekeeping in Mission Viejo, which is a matter of public record.
And then we received two emails this evening during our meeting. The first one is from David Reslowski, and it says, here to support residential beekeeping in Mission Viejo. The second comment is from Nia Hartman. It says, last year, a company came out to our streets selling their outdoor bug spraying services to homeowners. I know my neighbor subscribed to their services last year. I have an all edible yard with 15 fruit trees and vegetables and herbs. For years, we were a bee mecca, even without a hive of our own. This year, we have had almost no bees in the yard, even though we have a bee-friendly flower area. Please put more effort into protecting the bees from pesticides. If we don't have beekeepers, then we can't keep a balance if these companies are allowed to impact the local bee populations. I believe that concludes our comments. You're done. That's it for the written comments. We do have at least, it sounds like 2 callers.
Okay, let's hear from the 2 callers. We have 3 minutes each, please.
Yes, hello, caller. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll warn you when you have 20 seconds remaining. Please state your name and address and begin.
Well, my name is Mike Elliott. I live in Huntington Beach and a member of the Long Beach Beekeepers Association, as well as the Orange County Beekeepers Association. And to give you a little background on this, in 1962, Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Westminster had these ordinances passed saying residential beekeeping was to not be allowed. Remember 1962, that was back when we had segregated schools and whole taxes and lots of DDT. The world has changed, and I really think that it's time for us to, in Orange County, to get more with the times and add, allow the freedom for people to keep bees. Anytime you deprive people of freedom to do something that's basically harmless, that should be looked at carefully. In particular, beekeeping is common in Long Beach and Los Angeles and Fullerton and Santa Ana and Yorba Linda and other places. It's not like you're blazing a new trail here. And I would really like you to seriously consider bringing this in. And also about the commercial beekeeping, I don't think you have to worry too much about people selling too much honey, because beekeeping is an expensive hobby, and it's really impractical to be used in residential beekeeping to be used for commercial purposes. These are hobbyists, and they love their bees, and they take care of their bees, and they make sure that that they're safe and sound and harmless. And as far as the question earlier tonight about stingless bees, yes, there are 20,000 species of bees in the world, and some of them are stingless, including mason bees and some sweat bees and so on. But that's not what we're talking about here. Here we're talking about, as was mentioned earlier, Apis mellifera, which is a particular species of European honeybee, which is not native to California, which would be nice if it were, but it's not. But it still is sort of this overall pan-pollinator that will pollinate just about anything, and that's generally a benefit. So I will release my time to the next caller and say thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hello, you have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll warn you when you have 20 seconds remaining. Please state your name and address and begin. Hello? Can you hear me, caller? I don't think there's anyone.
Sorry, I was on mute. I apologize. Thank you.
May begin.
Okay. Hi, my name is George Agortzis. I live in Mission Viejo at 23771 San Esteban Drive. And first of all, let me say thank you, Maya, for your initiative and persistence in trying to get this done. I really appreciate it. The reason I support this initiative to get this ordinance in place is I'm planning to install a garden in the backyard, and I want to have bees as well to pollinate. And so that's my primary reason. Secondary reason is everything everybody's mentioned about bee population collapsing. I don't think I'm going to influence that or turn that around, but I'll do my part. In any case, I really support the initiative, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That's all.
Ms. Hannes, we have no other callers.
No,
And Mr. Longnecker, we have no other emails. Correct? Larry, do we have any other emails to read?
Chair Brisson, you're muted. Oh, I'm sorry. I was offline.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So we've heard all the emails and we've heard all the callers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
correct.
Now, before I close the public hearing, does anyone have a burning question to ask President Savage or Maya? Okay. I wanted to ask President Savage, we heard the word apiary. Is that the term, technical term for a hive box or for a beehive?
No, apiary is basically, that is your bee yard. It is what you call it when you have multiple colonies or multiple boxes. So that is what they call an apiary. It's like your bee yard.
Okay. And it was mentioned, one of the callers said that we should really allow for more colonies than the ordinance allows. And I'm worried that if we did that, we have some people that live in Costa del Sol or Palmilla that have a tiny backyard, a backyard that may be as big as your living room. And I hesitate to think that we would allow people to split their hive in such a confined area. What are your feelings on that?
Well, you also have to understand that the bees do not stay in their box. The minute sunrise comes up, they're out flying around looking for pollen and nectar and water. So they're all over the place. So really the size of the yard has nothing to do with the hives. I mean, there are people on the East Coast that have a hive hanging out a rack for an air conditioner out their apartment window. So the reason for trying to get at least 3 hives is so that the beekeeper has the ability to manipulate when they need to sustain that colony. If you only have 2 hives and there's a problem, you're borrowing from one to try to help the other. Or if it's too big, you want to have that space to cut it down to make a split.
Well, the way the ordinance is written tonight, that's before us, it states that there can only be 1 hive in a lot having less than 5,000 square feet. A lot, that includes the house. And if you have between 5 and 10,000 square feet in area for your lot, that's a pretty big lot, then you can have no more than 2 hives. And if you have more than 10,000 square feet, which I guess would be an estate practically, you can have no more than 1 hive for each 5,000 square feet of additional lot area. Are you saying that that is contrary to the traditional beekeeping practice and is counterproductive or would be harmful to the practice of keeping bees?
I would say so. I live on a 1/4 acre, which is a little bit more. It's almost 11,000 square feet, I believe, if I did my math right. I have 6 hives in my backyard. I have a pool and jacuzzi, and I have neighbors surrounding me on all sides. So it allows me to manipulate my hives, when I need to. So where people get hung up is on the size of the property. You don't need a big field to have multiple hives because the bees do not stay there. The bees they'll fly 3-4 miles to go get what they want, which crop they want, what flowers, where the good nectar is, where the pollen is. They will fly, a great distance to get what they need. So it's not necessarily, you're not locking them into that, 5,000 square foot yard property, So, and that's where a lot of people have the misconception that you need to have a big yard to have multiple beehives. That's simply it's not true.
What about the comment that was made about how we have increasing because of the breeding of the bees in Northern California, that we have a better species or better breed now that are non-defensive bees? What if, and that's better because they don't tend to attack anybody. They're non-defensive, correct? You explained that to us before. Would you mind if we put something into the ordinance which would encourage reliance more on non-defensive bee colonies?
We promote for commercial queens. Those queens are raised commercially with the docile genetics from the drones. So that when we have our hives with commercial queens, because none of us want problem bees. That's the worst thing that we want. We don't promote that. We don't want somebody getting in over their head. So when we get our initial packages, they are from Northern California. They have been raised with the genetics. So you've got those 10,000 bees in that package of, to install that are all genetically docile.
Okay, so there's no need to put it in the ordinance because that's the supply that someone's going to get if they order a package of bees.
Yes, yes. And with having the genetic queens, the commercial queens, we put those commercial queens in feral hives as well, so that it helps tone down their genetics. We don't want to raise Africanized bees. So the more commercial queens we can get down here in the area, the more they will breed and hopefully tone down the Africanized traits that we've had issues with.
Here's my last question. It is noteworthy that tonight no one has spoken in opposition to this ordinance. No one. Everyone is in support. That's very unusual when we hear something before the Planning Commission. But I'm asking you, how would you feel if you are one of those 0.1% people that is deathly afraid of bees because you have a lethal reaction, allergic reaction to bees, and you're next door to the person that's going to install 3 or 4 hives? Do you think that the ordinance should allow for that neighbor who will die if they get stung by a bee to object to your installation of the aviary or the apiary?
I think they have full right. In your proposed ordinance, the incoming beekeeper needs to notify their surrounding neighbors within 100 feet, I believe it was, of the hive. If there is I can't hear you.
Are you saying that the person that is lethally allergic to bees could go to the Orange County Agricultural Commission and file a complaint or a protest so that person could not install a beehive? Is that what you're saying?
No, me personally, if I had a neighbor that said that their son was allergic, EpiPen allergic or whatever, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have hives. I would not have hives. When they send out that letter, or however they notify their neighbors, what Fullerton does is Fullerton sends out a letter to the the surrounding neighbors. If there's any rejection, anything comes up, if somebody is definitely allergic and they have the EpiPen, they deal with Fullerton on that, and Fullerton turns down their permission. So it's pretty simple. But I mean, yeah, people have the misconception of what being allergic to bees is, when they get stung is. Everybody thinks that if they get stung, they're allergic. If you're calling that allergic, everybody is allergic to a certain extent, because you get the reddening, you get the itching, you get the swelling. It's the degree, that you have reactions. There is definitely allergic, and there is just, like a mosquito bite or a flea bite. So there's different,
Thank you very, very much. All right, we've heard all the testimony, and I close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any further comments on the ordinance? Is there a motion to approve the recommended action? Okay, Commissioner Leckness. Commissioner Leckness, go ahead.
I'm trying to unmute. I'm not unmuting. Can't unmute.
Hold on, I can't help you.
We hear you, Commissioner Leckness.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Inconceivable. It says unmute. You hear me?
Yes.
Oh my God. How much have you heard? All right.
Actually, nothing until now. You're safe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maya, I just want to say I think this has been a monumental movement from you as a junior. I feel like I should have my medical jacket on right now. I'm so into the bees. In fact, if bees come in my house, I have no problem with them. I love bees. Laguna Woods, let me tell you what Laguna Woods does, okay? They have the residents, and they raise honey over there in Laguna Woods, and then the residents bring the honey to City Hall. Are you ready for this? They bring the honey to City Hall. The honey is in like jars on the front counter of City Hall, and they sell them, and the money goes to something. I don't know where it goes, but they pay a couple bucks for this honey that the residents breed or make, and it's all good. But what the best thing about that, in Maya, this is very important. You got to remember this as you get older. The honey that the residents eat from the honey of the bees in that area, it makes the allergies. I think Miss Savage mentioned this. If you have an allergy of something and you eat the honey from the bees in the area, the allergy goes away. All right, it just goes away, and that's the beauty of the bees. The reason I like the bees so much is I'm gonna say two words: Uncle Milton's Ant Farm. Now that means nothing to a lot of you, but to some of you, you'll go, you know what? That's when I began my true love for the bees, is through the ants. And Maya, the Uncle Milton's Ant Farm was a plastic thing that you bought the ants, and they came in separate from the game or whatever, and you put them in this thing, and you watched the ants live their life. They had an area where they ate, and they had an area where they buried their dead. And it's the same thing with the bees. The bees have the same kind of connection, the circle of life. All right, look that one up. It's a Disney movie. I'm not going to sing that right now, but I think it's great that Maya has brought this to the attention of the commission, and I can't see how I could not vote against this. I love it, and I think it's very important what we've learned today, not so much with the birds, but with the bees today. And I'd like to thank Ms. Savage for her involvement in this. I have nothing else to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Someone else wish to make a comment or a proposal?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Blum, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. I have a special connection to bees also. Real quick, we planted 280,000 almond trees up in Central Valley, and I'd have to lease a hive and a half per acre every year to pollinate all the almond trees, and so it'd be a constant buzz. but without those honeybees or without those bees, we would have no almonds. So, but the honey that's produced from those beehive is very bitter. So we let the beekeepers take it and they sell it to Kellogg's or General Mills and they mix it for cereal. But anyways, I'm all for keeping bees thriving. And Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move the item to the council as recommended. And if you feel that we need to add more hives to the areas of the lots, I'd be for that. I don't know what my other commissioners feel, but I think one hive in 5,000 square feet, I think we could go to 2 very easily. So I move the item.
Okay, before we proceed, Chairman-elect, you're muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay.
I'd like to second that.
Second. Okay.
Motion.
Now please mute, everybody mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, then I'm hitting mute and you can't hear me, but I need to know because I don't want to say anything I shouldn't. So I gotta say, I don't know what's going on.
And I'm a little confused as well because I just tried to mute everyone. And it says that I did, but we still hear you. So choose your words wisely for the rest of the meeting.
All right.
Do you have your James Bond shoe phone on or something? I don't know why we can hear you because you're muted.
All right. Is there another commissioner who wishes to comment? We have a motion and a second. Is there another commissioner who wishes to comment? Okay, I have some questions. First of all, Larry, it's been suggested that we allow more colonies than the ordinance does. What is your feeling? What does staff feel about that? Where did you get the idea of limiting to this square footage? Does that come from another city, another model ordinance, or?
Yeah, we basically looked at other city ordinances and cobbled together what we presented to you tonight. So we'd have to do a little research and determine if we agree that it doesn't introduce any kind of safety problem.
Okay, so you agree that could be modified pending further research.
Sure.
And Assistant City Attorney Harper, do you feel that we could approve the motion, we could vote on this motion with the understanding that in the meantime, before it goes to council, staff will look into alternative space limitations?
Sure. In fact, the council has asked you to look at this ordinance and make comments on it. And that's what you're doing, is making a comment which they can address.
Okay. I wanted to direct Mr. Longnecker, could I direct your attention to 10.01.298 on the conditions for beekeeping? Now that states, even though we're looking at residential beekeeping tonight, this is an ordinance for residential beekeeping. And yet that paragraph for the conditions for beekeeping states each person, firm, partnership, association, corporation, company, syndicate, estate, trust, business trust, etc., organization of any kind, can maintain bee colonies provided that they comply with the following conditions. I would like to suggest that we eliminate everything there but the word person, because we're talking about residences. We're not talking about companies or corporations or syndicates. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, staff's position is we're fine with that. I'd like to ask our assistant city attorney to weigh in on it.
Mr. Harper.
I mean, you can eliminate, you can could use as Chairman Breton suggests, person, or you can change it to resident. Because I guess theoretically, a resident could be something other than a quote person. I mean, there could be, you know, a trust or a corporation that owns a home.
Does the maker of the motion agree to that amendment?
Yeah.
Mr. Blum? Commissioner Blum?
Yes, Chair Breton, I agree to that amendment.
And second to the motion, agree to that amendment. Commissioner Leckness?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay. Any further comment or discussion? Before we proceed, Larry, did you make any changes to the whereases?
So I wrote notes while we chatted earlier, Chairman Breton. I have not typed those up or made them in any presentable way, but I do have the notes here.
Okay. I suggested that we beef up our preamble at the beginning where we explain all the reasons why we should permit beekeeping in the city of Mission Viejo, the multiple reasons, many of which were expressed tonight by the callers and the persons who emailed. I would suggest that we proceed with this motion and that we allow Larry to draft the new preamble, the new set of whereases, send it to all of us, and if any of us has any objections to that those whereases, we can register them before this goes to council. Is that agreeable with everyone? Anyone?
Yeah.
Anyone oppose that? All right. Then let's go ahead and vote on the item. Could you call the roll on this motion, Ms. Hannes?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Blum,
Yes.
Commissioner Nauer Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leckness,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Reish,
Aye.
Chairman Breton.
Aye. Congratulations, Maya. And the bees in Mission Viejo are going to be happier than in any other part of Orange County. Thanks to you.
Look at Dave.
Thank you and good luck before the council.
Thank you so much for your consideration. I really appreciate your time and all of you being so open. I know sometimes people have very close minds when it comes to bees, and so I really appreciate all of your support and consideration. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the item number 4 concerning a request by a resident of the city of San Juan Capistrano that we make a street name change within the city. And I want to know, is this person online? Do we know if this person is online right now?
The person was by I think on the WebEx, but he was not meeting, and the fact that the agenda item was on tonight. But so I don't know if he, but I do not
Okay.
the WebEx.
All right. Then I'll turn the time over to staff, please, for a report on this item.
Okay,
Director Lister?
a brief report. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Yes, Chairman Breton wanted to bring up this issue as far as the discussion on the city street name change policies and procedures. So I'll briefly go over the procedures and then the policies. Basically, the first thing that an applicant would do is to submit a change of street name, an application, and then pay a fee. And the application would include a letter of explanation, the current street name, the proposed street name, and the number of addresses that would be affected by the name change, if any, and then reason for the proposed change. And after they submit the applications, the application, it would be reviewed by various agencies, including Orange County Fire, the Postal Service, city staff, including community development, public works, and police services. Then the application would be considered by the commission, notice public hearing, and then the commission's action would be forwarded to the city council or as a recommendation. Then the application would go before the city council at another notice public hearing, with the council being the final authority. If approved by the city council, the applicant is responsible for paying the installation of the interim or permanent street signs associated with the street name change. City council did approve a very short resolution regarding street name changes, as far as posting the old name and the new name. And then also, in addition, there was a city council policy 90-94 procedure for the city council to name or change a street name is provided in the municipal code. And that is specifically for if the council does it. We're mostly talking about if a private resident wanted to change the street name. That concludes my report. I'm available for any questions you might have on the policy or the procedure.
Thank you very much. I want to make it clear to the commission that the letter was addressed to the mayor, and Mayor Goodell forwarded the letter to me and specifically stated this looks like something for the planning commission to look into, for the planning commission to handle. So it's at his request that I put this on the agenda, because they want our commission to weigh in on this request. Let me ask you, Mr. Martin, did the applicant fill out, did the person who sent the letter to the city, did this man file an application?
No, not yet.
Has this person filed or paid a fee, paid the required?
No.
Is there a signed statement from the applicant that he's willing to pay for the installation of new signs?
No.
Okay. Then, then Assistant City Attorney Harper.
Yeah.
What if we tonight simply
I figured I was next up.
Yeah. What if tonight we simply took no action? No action, or do you recommend that we actually deny the request? Which do you recommend?
I mean, either one comes out the same, but since the process requires 2 notice public hearings, and this isn't one of those, you don't have jurisdiction to take any action in particular. So if you just simply, whether you deny it or whether you simply say we lack jurisdiction and that he needs to follow the process without suggesting whether you support or don't support the name change is probably appropriate.
Then would it be appropriate for us to send a letter, to direct staff to send a letter to this person informing this person of all of the steps and procedures and fees that are incumbent upon him to take care of before it can be considered by the city?
Sure.
Okay. Does any commissioner have a question of staff? Okay. Then is there a motion that we simply direct staff to send a letter to this person informing him of the proper procedures?
Chair Breton?
Yes, Commissioner Blum.
With all due respect to the proposed applicant, what I thought we were going to look at tonight is are we comfortable with the procedure or the ordinance as written? And if this applicant does come to send an application to us, we can consider it. I agree with, listening to Assistant City Attorney Harper, I don't see what action we should take at all tonight. It was nice putting it on the agenda, but I don't know what we'd need to have any action on this item. So I, I don't know what the other are my fellow commissioners, how they feel, but it was great. It was great listening to the process, but we have no application, and we should send a letter telling them so. So I just as soon move on with no action.
Bob, we can't hear you, Commissioner Berton.
Commissioner Blum, are you suggesting that we ask staff to send this person a letter?
Yes, Chairman Berton.
Okay, that's a motion then. Is there a second?
I'll second it if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, before we move on, I just want to mention to you that these ordinances were adopted by the council partly when I was on the council, partly because one of the council members simply, upon the death of a very prominent individual in Mission Viejo, Peter Hartman, the superintendent of public schools in the Saddleback Unified School District, when he died, one of the council members just told the press, we're going to change the name to a street and name it after him, without consulting with the other council members. And the other council members were surprised and offended that this person had taken that bold step, and decided that they would adopt an ordinance that would make it stricter for the renaming of a street. There came a time when I myself wanted to rename a street, which has been mentioned in the Mission Viejo Reporter, and that is the street that goes up to the hospital is called Medical Center Way, but the one that same street, when it heads north of Crown Valley, is just a small half a block, and there's no businesses on that street. Therefore, it doesn't affect the changing of address to any building or firm. It was suggested by John McGinnis, who was on the planning commission at the time. His wife, Valerie McGinnis, was the librarian of the city, and he suggested that naming it for Dr. Guevara, who delivered the first 2,000 babies in the community of Mission Viejo at Mission Hospital. And it so happens that Dr. Guevara is a direct descendant of the original settlers in Mission Viejo of the Avila Adobe. And because he was the first doctor, the first obstetrician in Mission Viejo, and had delivered so many babies, it was decided to rename that street. There have been one or two other street name changes, but that was where they got the consent of all the residents on the street. One was because the word in Spanish was a dirty word, and the other was because it was a word that's associated with a well-known serial killer. But it's very, very rare that anyone can surmount the obstacles and meet all the thresholds that are required in order to change a street name in Mission Viejo. I wanted you to see what these ordinances entail, so that if somebody asks you on the street or makes a suggestion, then you would have already become familiar with these ordinances. For instance, right now the Capistrano Unified School District is building a new building which is adjacent to the middle school. The middle school that is next to the community center. What's the name of that middle school? Is that? What's the name of that?
Hartman.
Newhart.
Newhart. Sorry, Newhart.
Newhart. And that new building is a smart building. It's a science and engineering and technology and Mathematics Building. And that to me would be an appropriate building to name after Miguel Lopez Alegria, because the kids that are going to be studying in that building are going to be studying math and science and technology and engineering. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is staff report. Director Lister, do you have anything to mention?
All I want to say, very happy Thanksgiving. That's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, do you have any comments to make before the commission? Okay, yes. Is that your hand going up, Vice Chair Reese? No. Okay, so Director Lister, I wanted to ask, are we having a meeting in December that you know of?
I do not know. Don't think I have anything on the agenda at this point, but I can't tell you sure, that something won't. So I'd say it's probably at best.
Pardon me, didn't hear that.
It's 50.
Okay. All right. So if we do not have a meeting in December, then we will see you next year, and we'll have at the first meeting in January the reorganization of the commission. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to end by thanking, expressing my deepest appreciation for the first responders in our communities. The police officers who daily risk their lives, and especially the firefighters. We've had 2 major fires in Orange County, and we've had many, many firefighters in harm's way, and some of whom were suffered great injury. And I just wanted to recognize their heroism and all that they contribute to our community. Okay, so we will.
I'll since my mic, I cannot mute it. So I would just like to say, if this is our last meeting, this will be my last meeting because I'll be termed out. And I got to tell you, it's been the best thing. Okay. In 2007, a guy named Lance McLean came to the Chamber of Commerce, and he goes, "Hey, we need planning commissioners. Any way you guys want to be a planning commissioner?" And no one said anything. So after the meeting, I went up to him and I go, "Lance," and I've met him a couple times before. I go, "What's this planning commissioner stuff? What are you talking about?" He goes, "Oh, we need planning commissioners. We need people in the business community, and it'd be good to have someone from the Chamber of Commerce that's got a business to be on the planning commission." I go, I don't know what it is, but I go, I might do that, right? So I called him up and he said, I am willing to do it. And he goes, "Well, I'm filled up, but there is a council member named Gail Revis that needs somebody." So, and I've met Gail. So I go, "Gail," I call Gail. I go, "Hey, you need a commissioner?" I go, "I can do it. I don't know what it is, but I'll do it." She goes, "Great, we need you." So from 2007 to 2010, I was a planning commissioner, okay? Then from 2010 to 2015, I was a city council. And then Greg Ratz in 2000, whatever it was, he appointed me to this thing. And it's just been a great run from 2007 to now. And I'm glad it's done. I'm glad I did it. And Bob, and maybe I'll come back again. Bob, you have done it as a former mayor. You have returned, and put your wisdom on it, and maybe down the road. But it's been a great experience working with Elaine and Larry and all the others have been terrific. So if this is the last one, it's been a big thumbs up. I've enjoyed it, and that's it. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you, Dave, for your years of exemplary service. And we want you to come back to the meeting in January if we don't have one in December. We want you to at least be there for the presentation of the of the beloved plaque.
Will it get an award?
We may give
No, I
you
got enough awards. So please, and do not, Elaine, this goes to you. Do not, if, you know, there's some, and I know there is, do not, I don't need an award. I don't need anything because they just end up in a box. And
Oh,
we
dear.
may,
You don't get that easy.
we,
all
may,
right.
we may give you a jar of honey. How's that?
Hey, now you're talking. Maya, are you still with us? I'd love that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you and good night. The meeting
Good
is
night,
adjourned. Meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Great meeting.
Good night and happy birthday, Joe.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday,
Joe.
Joe.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.